So last week, Tonia Borsellino, another Catholic YouTuber, put out a video called Becoming a Sister Just Because I'm Single. Now in that she talked all about
loneliness and celibacy. This should be good.
And every 30 seconds of the video, I just had to raise my hands and go, yes, preach it, sister, this is exactly what we're talking about. She was really talking about how loneliness and celibacy and how she isn't really becoming a sister just because she can't find a husband, but because she feels like that's her calling.
A woman, if she is doing it for the right reasons, becomes a sister because God calls her to it, and she responds with a yes out of love for him.
Now, I felt inspired by that video and decided, you know what? I'm gonna make a similar video. Let's talk about vocation stories. See, for me personally, growing up, I was the kind of kid in high school who was always like, hey, yeah, you're gonna be a priest someday, right? Har har har, but no, seriously, you're becoming a priest, right? Comment below if you know exactly what I'm talking about, and if that's happened to you, leave a comment, because oh my goodness, it happens a lot. You know what I'm saying? Like, you go to daily mass, you're doing the youth group stuff, you have the keys to certain parts of the church because you need to get in there, and times when it's normally closed to get stuff for youth group, and people just start assuming, hey, this person is a guy who loves God, therefore he will be a priest. Well, guess what? If it was only, hey, you're a guy who loves God, become a priest, we would have an issue because we wouldn't have a lot of children in the church. See, this is the deal. A lot of people think that if a guy is really in love with God, he should become a priest. Like, if he's outspoken and charismatic and fun and, you know, enjoying life. It is good if priests are charismatic and are genuinely good people and can give a good homily and do, you know, it's kind of important if they do love God, kind of a big deal. But more important than any of that is if it is actually their vocation to become a priest. See, I heard one time a mom say, yeah, I have X amount of kids, slightly large, more than a van, and I feel like I have not done my duty properly if at least one of my children does not enter a religious community. Okay, first off, for reals, what the heck? Because, like, you're not in charge of their vocation. God is in charge of your kid's vocation. You know, if I had 8 kids, God willing, God forbidding, I don't know, however many kids God wants me to get. I'm single. Can't even think about that right now. But hypothetically, if I did have 8 children and none of them entered the religious communities, well, I'd be fine with that as long as they were all following their vocation from God. See, and that's the problem. A lot of people say, well, you know, you would be a great priest, therefore you should be one. But people who have the quality, okay, let's break down. What are the qualities that make someone a good priest? Well, I already said, a guy who's a good priest is someone who's genuinely charismatic, someone who loves God, someone who, you know, just wants to follow God's will for their life and wants to help bring others closer to God. And I feel like a lot of people, especially the older generation of the church, feel like, well, if you meet these qualifications, then by definition, you should become a priest or religious because you are that person who loves God. And you would be a good priest, therefore you should be a priest. But honestly, like, if you don't feel that call, don't enter the religious community. I'm dead serious. Do not become a priest. Because if you're doing something really, really good and not following God's vocations, it's not that that's bad. It's just that you should do what you have a vocation to. See, God calls each and every one of us to a certain plan. That is our vocation. Our primary vocation is to get to heaven. Our secondary vocation is to love God. I've talked about this in a previous episode that I will link in one of the corners. I still forget. This corner? This corner. And it's not bad. If you become a priest and you're good and you're a good priest, that's not bad. You know, God is going to be like, well, you're actually supposed to get married and have 15 kids, so you failed, can't get into heaven, goodbye. God's not going to act like that. God is instead going to say, hey, you know, you did good work. That's what I care about. You try to follow my will and all things. That's good. But at the same time, I do not ever want to hear, hey, it's such a pity that they, you know, got married, or, oh man, you have a girlfriend? What is this? I thought you were going to become a priest. Like, that sort of talk is really detrimental. Because seriously, we don't need just good priests in our churches. We need solid, incredible families. And we need men who have those qualities of priests to be not fathers, but fathers. See what I did there? Really clever. Because father of the church, but instead you're a father of kids, like actual kids, instead of being like a spiritual father. Just ignore me. So now let's get real. Talk about me personally. What is my vocation? Honestly, I don't know what God's going to throw at me. I just finished a book by Pier Giorgio Frassati. It was a biography about his life called To the Heights. It's on Amazon. And it was probably one of the best books I've ever read about a saint. Because by the end I was crying, because it really makes you understand this is the kind of person this guy was. If you know anything about Pier Giorgio Frassati, he was the son of a rich Italian newspaper man. He, you know, was wealthy. He wanted to help out mining engineers and create better living conditions for them in mines. And he died when he was in his mid-20s, but he lived his entire life trying to serve other people. And at one point in his life, he went up to one of his priest's friends and said, hey, Father, I have a problem because I don't really think I'm called to the priesthood, but I really want to help people. And the priest asks him, well, why do you think? And he's like, well, I feel like I'm afforded a lot more ability to reach out to people and teach people and talk to people, and they're going to talk to me more than if I had the collar. And the priest was like, that's fine, dude. Like, if that's, how you feel, and you've prayed about this a lot, and that's what God's telling you, then by all means, go for it. Because that's what you're wanting to do for your life, and that's what God is pushing to you, and that's the desire of your heart, and that's not a disordered desire, then fine. You're not meant to be a priest. And Pier Giorgio felt so guilty about it, because he was like, I would be a great priest, people keep telling me I'd be a great priest, but at the same time, I don't feel the calling. I can totally relate to that. I was that kid in daily mass with old ladies coming up to me and being like, oh, you're gonna be a great priest someday, sonny, while grabbing my cheek and pulling me off the side. But do I feel a calling to the priesthood? Honestly, no. Now, would I be a good priest? I mean, in all humility, yeah, probably. But at the same time, I don't feel the specific calling to the priesthood. Right now in my life, I'm feeling pretty great because all I'm doing is what I believe to be God's will. I'm making these awesome videos on YouTube. I'm hooking up with awesome Catholic companies to promote their products. I'm going to school and studying something I really enjoy. I get to lead a choir at my school. I'm in plays at my school. I do all this stuff. I have great friends who push me to become a better person. I go to mass. I go to confession. I get to go to daily adoration at my school. I feel like I'm in the place that God wants me to be, and I'm enjoying it. And honestly, if that means that I'm not meant to be a priest, then that's fine. Now, flip side, that does not necessarily mean send me your numbers, eligible ladies, because I am not looking to get into a relationship anytime soon. I feel like it's kind of harder to discern the idea of marriage because you have to find a person first, and then after that, you have to find, see if this person's right, and they could be right and, meet all your criteria, but it could not be the right person that God wants you to marry. So you have to find someone and then just date them to discern, hey, is this the right kind of a person? Is this person the right one? Before that, you have to be friends with them. And before you're friends with them, you know what? Whole other episode about friendship and dating. I think Tonia Borsellino actually did an episode on it with Guy Loving God, who I think he's actually a subscriber, which is completely awesome because, come on. Dude's pretty cool. And I'll probably do an episode about friendships later on, but the point remains, even if you're not called to the priesthood, that doesn't mean you're automatically called to marriage. I have friends who are, in their mid-30s who haven't married, and that's not a bad thing. And I have friends who are 18, 19 who think they know exactly who they're going to marry and are in really solid committed relationships. And that's also a great thing. Basically, to sum all this up, people are all going to have individual vocations. Don't try to tell them what their vocation should be entirely based upon who they are. Because yes, people who are good, God-fearing, God-loving people who just want to help others would be great fathers and nuns, but at the same time, they would also be great moms and dads. So thank you everybody so much for watching. Heads up, please follow on Instagram because I'm going to start doing a lot more cool stuff on Instagram. I realize I haven't been using that and I have 125 people. There's more people on Instagram than I have on Facebook, so I'm going to start doing more stuff on Instagram, just some more hey, this is me sign this stuff, so if you want to learn more about who I am, Instagram, just follow, boom, shakalaka. It's literally just at Rise Up Jerusalem because I am very clever and can't think of really fun names for everything is Rise Up Jerusalem for real, seriously. But yeah, follow me on Instagram for more awesome things. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. Again, if you like this video, subscribe if you're not already, and share this with somebody you think needs to hear it. Either somebody who has been told, hey, you made a great priest for forever, or somebody who's like, my children will all become priests and religious. But anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. As it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be. Rise up in life.
Hey guys, I totally forgot to say, subscribe to Tonia Borsellino's YouTube channel if you put in the search bar right above my head, Sister Intern, it'll come up. That's it. Bye.